So the Epstein files, they've just been released, and it has been an absolute firestorm. But if you look past the headlines, a very specific political story is being told. Today, we're going to break down one source's really provocative argument that an attempt to use this whole scandal against one political party didn't just fail, it actually backfired. Big time. Let's get into it. All right, here's how we're going to walk through this argument. First, we'll set the scene with a new political battleground. Then, we'll dive into the initial allegation that got this whole thing started. After that, we'll get to the core of the claim, the backfire narrative, and look at the evidence they used to support it. And finally, we'll see what conclusion this source comes to. Okay, first things first, we have to understand the battleground. The main idea from the source we're looking at is that the moment the Epstein files were unsealed, they stopped being just a legal case. Nope. They were instantly transformed into a political weapon, which, of course, set the stage for a massive partisan fight. And this really gets to the heart of the tension, right? Is the release of these files about getting justice for the victims, or is it about scoring political points? Well, according to the argument we're examining today, there's no question. It claims this has been a partisan fight from the word go. So, in this big political chess match, what was the opening move? Well, our source lays out what it claims was the specific strategy designed to land the first punch. According to our source, this was never really about just simple transparency. The claim is that the release was a very targeted photo dump. The whole strategy, they argue, was to create this powerful and really damaging public link between Donald Trump and the horrific crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. We're moving from the alleged plan to what the source claims was a completely unexpected outcome, a total, complete narrative backfire. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the source's entire argument. The claim isn't just that the strategy didn't work, it's that it boomeranged. The source alleges the whole situation flipped so dramatically that it sent the other side into full-blown panic mode, totally reversing the political pressure. So, to build this case, the source presents this really stark contrast. On one side, it highlights Trump's response, using that very strong word excommunicated to describe how he supposedly cut ties. But on the other side, it alleges that prominent Democrats were still, cozying up to him long after he was already a convicted sex offender. Okay, so that's a pretty huge claim, this whole backfire thing. How does the source even try to back that up? Let's dig into the specific points it presents as proof. A big part of the argument really leans on this quote from commentator Scott Jennings. It's basically used to frame the entire thing as a political hit job. The idea here is that the goal was never justice, it was just, and I quote, to smear Donald Trump. All right, so here's where the source really dissects that so-called photo dump. It claims the photos were cherry-picked. That one photo of Trump that got a lot of play was just an old one that was already out there. But, and this is the most critical part, it claims the women's faces in the photo were blurred on purpose to mislead you into thinking they might be underage victims. And to top it all off, the source points out that one of the women in that photo had actually already said on the record that Trump was gentlemanly. Now, this is a really important point to understand their argument. When the source uses this term Democrat hoax, it's not saying Epstein's crimes are a hoax, not at all. What it's defining as the hoax is the specific political effort to weaponize this tragedy against a political opponent. That's a key distinction. And to argue that the narrative has really flipped, the source then turns the spotlight around. It points to Kathy Ruemmler, who was a counsel in the Obama White House, and alleges she had dozens of meetings and emails with Epstein after his conviction. It also brings up Hakeem Jeffries, saying his team was exposed for soliciting money from Epstein. It's like the source is asking, hey, if we're so focused on Trump, why wasn't this the story? So after laying all of this out, how does the source wrap it all up? Let's take a look at the final takeaway from this whole backfire narrative. And here's the end game, according to this source, a complete narrative reversal. The ultimate claim is that the party that supposedly launched this attack now finds itself totally on the defensive, with the spotlight suddenly pointing right back at its own members. So this is the final takeaway from this source's perspective. It argues that the real outcome of this whole alleged maneuver is a total loss of control. The idea is that the Democratic Party just can't steer the Epstein story anymore and now wants nothing more than for everyone to, quote, desperately move on. And so, this whole analysis leaves us with a really critical question, and it's one that goes beyond politics. When a story that is rooted in such a profound human tragedy gets turned into a political tool, who really benefits? Is it justice, or is it just the partisans themselves?